I started creating content after I went through a layoff, was sort of bored in the new job.
Mike Petito is a content creator and talent acquisition leader who started building his personal brand out of boredom and never looked back. He's now helping job seekers navigate the world of work through relatable and impactful content.
Now I do because I get all this attention and love it and don't want to stop.
At a recent event, Mike discovered the power of creating content at conferences, but not without some struggles. Take us back to RecFest. What was your initial goal with creating content there?
I knew I wanted to make a video talking to ATS companies. I knew I wanted to make a video asking, do recruiters read resumes or does AI do it? And then it rained the whole rest of the first day.
Despite setbacks, including faulty equipment, Mike shares valuable lessons on balancing being present and capturing great content.
Tip for anyone out there, invest in good microphones.
Learn from Mike's experience on how to turn those struggles into great content.
I just have footage of me making a lot of people laugh when talking, right? Or I have footage of, I did a time-lapse video. They had a character artist there.
Looking back at your journey, in TA and content creation, what's the one piece of advice you would give to someone who's wanting to start?
I wish more people who are actively working in TA would.
Tune in to hear more about Mike's journey, including his plans for leveling up his conference content and why he's not done with RecFest just yet.
Thought about right before the conference how nice it would have been to...
Okay, so perfect. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Mike. I'm so excited for this topic.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Amazing. So I guess I wanted to start. Why do you create content?
It's kind of funny. I don't know. I know that's not supposed to be the answer. So I started creating content after I went through a layoff and started a new job and was sort of bored in the new job and felt like I wasn't getting to do a lot of what I wanted to do in it. So I started making content, just I went through this job search. Let me help some people do it. And it took off and it worked for me. And then I just kept doing it. And now I do because I get all this attention and love it and don't want to stop.
Fair enough. I think a lot of us that create content, because I have a lot of people who create content on the podcast. When you look back, it's really something that started let me do it. There was no master strategy behind it. And then it's it works. Let me keep doing it type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I have texts to my friend who I was just I'm going to get on TikTok. I'm going to make a video. Right. And then he's oh, you got 100 views on that video. And I was just yeah, this is dumb. He's you have 100 followers. He's yeah, no, but I'm never going to hit the 1,000 to be able to go live. I'm never going to get the 10,000 to be able to monetize it. And then it just kept going and going.
Amazing. And TikTok is hard. I mean, I did TikTok for a while and it went great. And now that I haven't done it, I see my followers going down every month. I'm ooh, people actually remove you when you don't post. So
yeah, it's also TikTok has a ton of people who kind of lose their accounts or bot followers, like any other social media. So if you're not active on it, what happens is I don't think people are even unfollowing you as much as just dormant accounts getting cleansed and you not getting new accounts because you're not posting.
Yeah, could be that too. So the reason why I wanted to talk to you today really is because we were both recently at a conference called RecFest, and I saw you there creating content. And that's one of the things that I always wanted to talk to someone about on the podcast, about creating content at in-person events. So take us back to RecFest. What was your initial goal with creating content there?
Yeah, I'd never done something like that. I don't go to a lot of events. It's something I want to start doing more of. But, my goal ultimately was to come back with several videos worth of ideas, both for myself and for my full-time job. I had ideas in my head of what could work for both accounts. And, I ultimately wanted to take advantage of the fact that I was going to be around thousands of recruiters, as well as a ton of vendors in the space, right? I wanted to talk to people who make all of these tools that job seekers don't really understand and get word straight from their mouth about them.
Amazing. Yeah, I saw that ATS video. It's like, what a great idea. I thought it's like you're there with all the ATS
Hmm.
people. Let's get them to talk exactly about what their scary ATS does. What does your planning process look like for that event? Like, was it different than your usual planning process for your content?
Cons- Considering I have zero planning process, typically, yes. More planning when it is still not enough. But what I actually did, and what sort of inspired a lot of this, was I went to another event back in June. I was invited to the US State Department for this creator event on jobs with the federal government. And there were some people at this event who were like, really good at this. That's just what they do. And for me, I still consider myself an amateur. I still consider this like a part time side thing that I do for fun. And I watched how good they were, how prepared they were, the equipment they brought. And then I saw when they went home, they posted these videos that they clearly had planned out in advance. And I was just like, that's what pros do. I decided I was going to do that, and I bought some equipment. I actually reached out to the one person who I was sort of most impressed by, and I was like, "What do you travel with?" And I asked him, and I bought some of the like traveling tripods and things like that, and battery packs and things along that way. And I had an idea, right? I knew I wanted to make a video talking to ATS companies. I knew I wanted to make a video asking, do recruiters read resumes or does AI do it? I knew I wanted to make a video with common questions just being answered by recruiters. But beyond that, I didn't have much of a plan. I'm awkward. I don't like asking people to do this stuff. I filmed all of this B-roll because I was like, that's what people do. And I have not used any of it. And now it's just like all sitting on my phone that I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this stuff. So I try to put a plan together. I try to have a couple videos in mind. I wish I had more of a plan. But yeah, I think you have to for something like that. You have to know a couple videos you want to try to get made or you're not going to get them made.
Yeah, for sure. Did you did things evolve as you were there and talking to people? Did you get more ideas like, oh, let me do this or let me do this?
Yes, it should have. I waited a little too long to start making content. The first day there, I was speaking, right? And I was sort of wrapped up in speaking the first day and just kind of being ready for that. And I wasn't making as much of the content as I wanted. And then it rained the whole like rest of the first day. So I was limited to one day. And that was sort of the regret I had because I waited till day two, is I didn't have a lot of time to review footage and figure out what do I need to reshoot? What could I do differently? What would I change? I just had to keep going with what I was doing. I ad libbed a lot, right? I recorded a ton of just stuff to see what would happen with it. But ultimately, the only content I really have that I wound up using was the stuff I had a plan for. All of the other stuff as I go through it, it was just very clear that I was just like winging it and recording dumb things that like I didn't want to post.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I it's interesting. I had a plan to do content on the first day because I had never been to RecFest and everyone told me you the first day is the best day to get everything because everyone's there. Lots of people aren't there the second day. And it's funny when you said battery packs because I traveled with my battery packs. I had everything planned and I forgot to charge the most important thing. Well, the second most important thing, which was my handheld tripod thing.
Yeah,
So, and everything I had planned was like moving content and that wasn't charged.
sure.
So, my first day was shot. I was like, oh no, but yeah, having a plan is so important. And just having the equipment ready and all of that is so so important for in-person events.
Yeah, and I found myself with it just kind of meandering and trying to figure out a lot to do. And I think it took me some time to get comfortable with the idea. And another time it would be, I think I could dive in even quicker. But I think it goes like making content in general, which is like stop thinking about it so much and just start doing it. I was overthinking way too much while I was there and too much in my head. So I definitely wish that hadn't been the case.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your gear and your setup. I was actually impressed with your setup. What did you use? Like what tools did you use for your setup there? And was it easy to carry around?
Yeah. I'm like looking around to see if I can grab it. I had a tripod that was recommended to me. I'm looking around as I'm moving away from my microphone. I had a tripod that was recommended to me that basically can get up to like 4 feet high and get down to a size that would fit in a backpack. So that was like a huge benefit. I also brought this kind of very small traveling tripod that's magnetic and can stick to things very easily. And that was something else recommended. So that's really all I brought. I had bought some microphones. Tip for anyone out there: invest in good microphones. I bought these microphones. I'm gonna blast them on air right now if you don't mind. The Alvox wireless microphones UM420 were trash. You can cut that out if you want, but if you want people to know, I bought these little microphones, and so much of my footage is ruined. And if you even look at the footage I put out there, it's choppy. You can't hear a ton. And that was one of the downfalls of only doing it on day 2, is I didn't have time to hear any of that wasn't going right. And I have so many interviews that just aren't usable because it was just cutting in and out. So invest in good microphones. That is step 1. It was too windy. It was too loud to not use microphones while doing it. And mine did not hold up. And that was pretty much all I had, though. It was the microphones, the handheld tripod, and the big tripod. So easy to fit in a backpack. I had a prop I used at one point. It was like this thumbs up, thumb down I bought that I just saw the idea in like some other like man on the street type interviews I had seen before. I lost it like 10 minutes into using it. I left it somewhere. So it's in like 2 videos.
That's cool. And I really liked like the ease of your setup because your tripod I could tell was like not super heavy. You were just moving it around as you went. And the microphones, I actually have ones that I love. The Rode one.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Those are much nicer looking.
and really it's really not a microphone. You put the wire I have the Rode wireless go
Oh.
mics and you put them here. But the real reason why I bought this is because I was able to find a pink
Of course.
pop filter for it.
Yeah.
And that's the most important part. But no, really, the sound is amazing because it's the same wireless mic that I use for my regular content, and you just like put it there and then
Yeah.
move around with that. And that additional mic was like 30 something dollars. And then the wireless go, I don't remember how much it is, but I think it's like $200 for the entire thing. Yes, they are cheaper options and I will link to them in the show notes, but sound, especially at a live event,
Mm-hmm.
and we had rain and wind and stuff like that, it's super super important because it's like it can destroy your footage.
Yep. I have tons of great video footage and just very little that I can actually use the sound for. Even the videos I posted, a lot of it I did voiceover for myself, over just like me re-recording my questions in my room, and just dealt with the fact that like their answers weren't very easy to hear.
Well, there's always next year and other conferences. How do you balance being present at the event with capturing content?
Yeah, it's a good question. I didn't do a great job of it, so I don't know. I mean, I guess my balance was I spent day 1 sort of being at the event and day 2 doing content, but I don't think that's the right way to balance. What I tried to do, what my plan was, and so I stick with it, was I went through the schedule and I figured out what do I want to see, what's going to go on my schedule, what talks do I want to go see, who do I want to meet, whatever else. And then when I'm not doing those things, I'll go do this other content and I'll figure it out. And that's essentially what I wound up doing. I sort of had blocks where I'd record for 20, 30 minutes in a row talking to people. And then I would go watch a talk or go have lunch or whatever else and hang out with some people. The thing I wanted to make sure I balanced, and luckily making content the way I did was easy, is I wanted to meet a lot of people because I don't usually do that type of stuff. So luckily that was happening while I was making the content. So I do think there was some balance to that. It would have been very different if I was just recording solo content the whole time or something like that. So I think I purposely made myself have to talk to vendors and other recruiters and people who were there just to get this content to begin with. And then just made sure to see the talks that I knew I needed to see.
I like that strategy. And yeah, while you're creating the content, you're getting to network and meet people. Did you find that it was easy to get people to be on camera with you?
For the most part, I had some people who didn't want to, but I don't know. Recruiters are recruiters, right? Like recruiters are some of the last people who are going to shy away from a camera, I think. But yeah, there's definitely, in one of the videos I even have, there was this huge group who was there from, I think it was Schneider Electric. and they had probably 20, 30 representatives there because it was like a local company. And I went up to the whole group and like asked, and they were all just like passing off to the next person. And there was two people who were like, "Yeah, we definitely will." And then everyone else sort of stood in the background, and they realized they were even on camera, and they just like shifted out in the middle of the video. So some people didn't want to. Typically, if I had to approach a group, they would say yes. When I would go up to like vendors and try and interview them, they'd usually have someone I'd get passed around to. So there's definitely people who don't want to be on camera, but you could always find the ones who did. The only people I was not able to get on camera at all was Indeed, who was the main sponsors of the event, who wanted nothing to do with talking about the Indeed job search platform on camera. And I sort of get it. They probably have a lot of rules with like a being on camera and in the media. They're Indeed. I think I approached them a little bit rough when I was just sort of like, a lot of people complain about the scams and the jobs on Indeed aren't real, and I'd love to talk to someone. And that was probably my approach was the problem, but that was the only thing I couldn't get recorded. I really wanted to talk to them.
Interesting, because I would think being so big and being the main sponsor, they would have someone like some PR type
Mm-hmm.
person that could answer that type of question, but maybe you just didn't approach that person.
Yeah, they passed me around to basically for the booth. Maybe they were there on day one, but it was funny. So I just have a good video of myself standing by their booth talking about how they didn't want to talk to me, but I haven't posted that because I don't need to start a fight with them.
Yeah, that's interesting though. Did you have a process? And I know you only filmed on day two, but like
Mm-hmm.
for editing and reviewing the content that you captured?
Yeah, I mean, because I had ideas of the videos I wanted to make, I first thing I do is I just went back and checked what videos were sort of good or useless. Right, what ones did I accidentally hit record on, and just delete all those quick 3 second clips or whatever. And then I started just taking each video and finding the area I wanted. Right, I found the part where I talked to people about resume length, where I talked about the ATSs, and I would load that video into CapCut, cut everything except for that part, and then load the next video in and cut everything except for that part. And then I'd start to go through and see, especially with my audio issues I had, which time that I asked the question came through the best, and we'll do that. And that's when all that B roll I filmed was really helpful too, because I was able to just sort of film myself walk in front of the RecFest sign or whatever and record whatever I needed over that. So some of the B roll footage did come in there. But yeah, it started with just knowing the 3 or 4 videos I wanted to make and finding the footage for that. And then just sort of going through the rest, right? I mean, the video I recorded with you is a perfect example. I recorded with you and 2 other recruiters, and that audio is almost just like entirely useless. In case you're wondering why none of the stuff we filmed has popped up in any of my videos, it's just like the microphones were not helping in that moment. So that was a real disappointment. So it just became going through and finding like what's the best usable content, and now what can I do with it. And I'm still doing it. I'm still going through it, trying to find new ideas, trying to find like new videos. I'm struggling because of the lack of audio on a lot of it, but I don't think I'm done putting stuff out from RecFest.
That's cool. And I think that's really the gold in it for anyone that's going to a conference. You get so much footage that you can use in different ways. You don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have to post exactly the interview that you asked, but you can, it's just, I know you'll have like endless ideas of it's like, oh, wait, let me do this type of thing. And you have the footage. Even if the audio isn't there, it could be some sort of B-roll at some point for something.
Yeah, I mean, I just have footage of me making a lot of people laugh when talking, right? Or I have footage of I did a time lapse video. They had a character artist there, and I did a time lapse video of them drawing a caricature of me, or me playing some of the video games that were there, and that all works to continue to make content over and over again on.
How would you, so it's fair to say that your target audience are job seekers, right?
I think so. For the majority, yes. I think I have a larger audience than I realized of people in the hiring space who also like to hear what I say. But most content I make is aimed at people trying to find a job.
So, and this is gold, right? You were at a conference full of recruiters, so you could get a lot of content for that. If you were to go to a conference, let's say a tech conference that isn't full of recruiters, how would you go about creating content there?
I think it would be based on it would be a lot more vendor specific things. So I think of something like HR Tech that was last week, and I didn't go to it. But they had tons of tools and softwares. And that was really the idea behind the ATS one I did, but I didn't get to talk to as many vendors as I wanted because so many of these vendors were aimed at, they were looking for like recruiters to buy things from them more than anything else. But if I could go where people really were like digging into the software and the tech, that would be my strategy, right? It's just sort of like, what do you do? How is it going to change hiring? What do job seekers need to know about it? I think that's sort of my biggest miss in that I didn't ask all these vendors is what should job seekers know about companies using your software and how it's going to affect their hiring? That would be my approach for something like that.
Yeah, that's a great approach. And it's true. It's like, I don't think I've seen much or any content from that perspective because it's like, what do the vendors want job seekers to know? Because I think, I mean, that's gold. I think that would be great perspective to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, and that was what the two ATS interviews I did at RecFest were. Right, I let Greenhouse sort of talk about. I asked them, "Do you have robots? Do you have scoring? Do you have all these things? How many resumes do you get? How many companies work with you?" And I think that job seekers want to know that stuff. Now, unfortunately, as I saw in most of these videos I put out, job seekers don't always necessarily want to hear or believe things that isn't what they want to be true. So I think those videos suffered a little bit from just people saying, I don't believe them. I don't care. I don't believe them. So that's the next hurdle for me to figure out is how to get people to like trust me talking to 10 experts, not the anonymous Reddit comment that's going viral everywhere, all over the internet now that people have turned into news stories. Like trust sources. I don't know how to ever squash that problem though.
I think it's the most fascinating thing for me that you can get recruiters, you can get the people building the ATS, you
Mm-hmm.
can get developers who build these tools to say things, and people still won't believe it because it's a lot easier to believe. I'm not getting traction in my job search because of this thing that has nothing to do with me is preventing me than just looking and saying, maybe it's something I'm doing, or maybe, you know what, the job market sucks right now and it's just hard. So,
Yeah, it's funny because this story I even referenced, and I don't know if you've seen it, right? There's a story going around right now about a hiring manager who thought that his HR team wasn't getting him any resumes, so he applied to the job, got rejected right away, and like got the HR team fired. And the media's all over it. It's all over. MSNBC's talking about it, all these companies, and no one has managed to like verify a thing. This all traced back to one anonymous Reddit comment where someone just wrote it, and it's being put everywhere, and people will just like be so quick to not ask for proof of that. But when I have 15 recruiters saying something, like no one will believe it because it's not the right thing. I went undercover a little bit on Reddit and tried to like blow that story up and create some chaos over it. It hasn't gone exactly how I wanted, but I am trying to prove that is fake, or at least prove that nobody cares that it's fake. I'm still working on that TBD.
I think my idea, and anyone who wants to, I don't create content for job seekers anymore, but anyone who wants to do this can steal the idea. I want to get just common people off the street, no, nothing to do with hiring, to use ATS. Like, here's ATS, here's one of my roles, here's everything coming in, go ahead, do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be something that people would believe more. But it's just, you know, there's laws and stuff and
Yes.
privacy, and you can't share people's stuff. But that's my dream content that I've always, it's like, if there was one company who would let me do that, I would create that content for free.
I
Just
have
because, go ahead.
I have a plan soon for a LinkedIn live stream where I'm going to, because you're right, you can't do this with a real company's ATS and real people's resumes, and the work that goes into like creating enough fake stuff to make this work is just not worth it. I'm planning on doing like a live stream, I think sometime soon, where I'm going to create like just a dummy job, not post it. I don't want it to be a real ghost job, but a job that is just going to be posted in my ATS. Put it out to everybody. Go apply to this. Try every trick you want. Do whatever you want to your resumes. Make your resumes, format them however you want. White font. Do all the stuff you want to do. And then I'm gonna go through all these on a live stream, and you're gonna see what I see. You're gonna see if rankings exist. You're gonna see how these show up in my system, and then it will not be kind of exposing one's private info but still using like a real ATS. So I do have that planned, but I just feel like there's a lot of like things I have to figure out first.
That's a cool idea. I might talk to you a little offline about ideas I have with that, but that's a great idea, and I think it would help like really show things. So going back to our topic about the conference, other than what you've mentioned, any other regrets or things that you would do differently in hindsight?
So, I think it comes down to those couple things, right? I would spend more time not just doing it all at once, right? I would have spent more time on day one as well when more people were there. I would have diversified and talked to more people. I think I really targeted, especially with limited amount of time, on mostly people I knew in advance already, and that was sort of limited there. I would have come with more ideas. Like I sort of had those three good ideas, and it was just like I'll figure out the rest, and I didn't. I would have absolutely bought better recording equipment. And then beyond that, I think I would have taken more time to make sure what I was doing was working right. Right. If I would have been pausing throughout the day and sort of like checking this audio or listening, got some headphones and done these things, like I might have been able to catch it and re record some stuff. The other thing that was on my mind, and this may be something people can help with, maybe they can't, is I thought about right before the conference how nice it would have been to bring someone to help me. I realized, we got, as a speaker, I had an extra free ticket. And I could have used that to sort of bring someone, even find someone local who's just like an audio person, right? Who could have come around and managed the equipment and been checking audio and making sure it was all working. I probably could have done that for a relatively inexpensive amount for a day. And I think it probably would have been worth the investment if I wanted to make like real professional quality stuff.
Yeah, that's my one takeaway as well. Next year, I said I'm definitely finding someone local that can go and actually shoot the content and do all of that. I don't mind the editing and all of that later,
Mm-hmm.
but like that way I could be present at the conference. I could be like getting the content. I think really if you have the means to do that, that's the best way. And for a lot of people go to these conferences paid for by their company. If there's if you can get a little more in the budget to do that, I think that would really change and like elevate the quality of the content that you get.
Yeah. And my other thing, this is just like a personal regret. If you have this opportunity, you're going to speak. I did not record my talk. And both for my own like personal wanting the recording of the talk, but also like that would have been really good content, like these straight up shots of me on the stage with the microphone talking. I didn't do it. I thought it would be somewhere, like I thought it'd sort of be accessible. One person I spoke with did record, but it was sort of a side angle, and I wish I had like a really good shot of that and just like video of that. And I just didn't because I felt like I didn't want to set it up in the middle of the aisle as I was like giving a talk. So that's my other big regret. I think it comes down to a lot of content creating regrets is sort of like sometimes it still feels a little bit embarrassing. Like you don't want to be that influencer in the wild. And I still sort of struggle with that a bit for myself.
Yeah, I do too. I think everyone does. And I've spoken to a lot of people who do this, even people who do this full time. It's still kind of like, you still get that kind of like side eye from some people
Mm-hmm.
when you're like in the middle of, I don't know, Target or whatever, a conference, just setting up your camera to shoot. But I think it's just going to become more and more accepted and like common to see these things. And I always go back to thinking on the end product and who I'm helping with the content. But of course, you're human. So you're still, there's always that balance. It's like, I don't want to be on influencers in the wild.
Yeah, it's hard. An event like that, I knew I was a little bit more comfortable because I sort of knew it would be okay. And anyone who knew me knew who I was already kind of doing this there. But yeah, I still struggle with that. I still go places with the idea of like, oh, I could get some good content here, or some good B-roll here, or whatever. And I just like pull out my phone and get like petrified and like put it back in my pocket.
Thank you for sharing that. I love sharing that because a lot of people, they see that we create content and they think it's like, oh, we've got this all together and there's never second guessing or anything. And I think there's a lot of it. I know for me, because I do a lot of video content just like you, there's a lot of second guessing. There's a lot of looking at the footage and being like, oh my gosh, but you just have to push forward.
Yeah, anyone who knows anything about me knows I do not have it all together. And I managed to keep going just fine.
Exactly. So, looking back at your journey, like in TA and content creation, what's the one piece of advice you would give to someone who's wanting to start?
It's a good question. You know, the piece of advice in general for anyone wanting to start is like to just do it, to get over your own personal like cringe feeling or whatever it is that's holding you back. Because the only reason you're not doing it right now is you aren't doing it. And that sounds like stupid to say, but that's the reason. Nobody is actually stopping you. If you have a boss who's stopping you, I guess it's different. But in general, nobody's stopping you, right? You're just kind of second guessing yourself. It's going to suck. I look back at my initial stuff and it sucks. And it's just sort of like dull and dry. And I don't really know what I'm doing. And it's not edited well. And I got better at it. But like you have to do those things. In terms of combining the two, you know, I wish more people who are actively working in TA would. There's not many who do. There's not many doing what I do, which is working full time as a director of TA and also creating all this content. And it's time consuming. So I know everybody can't do that necessarily. But there are a whole lot of ex recruiters telling you how it is and not enough actual ones. So, you know, if you are out there and you're actually in this space and you're thinking about sort of making more of this content, remember how many people could benefit from hearing from you. Uh, every time I post a video that sort of flops, and by my standards, like flopping might be different than somebody else's, but every time I post a video and let's say it only gets, you know, 3,000 views, and I should be getting way more because I'm in the high triple digits followers, and it gets 3,000 views. Out of those 3,000 views, there could be 200 people who saw it and absolutely got a piece of advice that helps them on their next interview or job search. So if you're creating the content to actually help people, just start doing it. If your only reason for creating is because you like want to get famous and make a lot of money, then like, yeah, you're probably going to struggle to get over that hump.
Great advice. And yeah, I always tell any client that I work with, your first video is going to suck. Like,
Mm-hmm.
get over it. It's going to suck. My first video, oh my gosh. And my first video, even though I had my husband directing, he's really good at video, has done this for a lot of times. I just wanted to do it my way. So we
Mm-hmm.
had a huge fight, and the video sucks. And I mean, I can't believe I'm going to say this. If I would have listened and done everything he said, it wouldn't have sucked that much. But your first video is going to suck. You get better, just get over it. Like, no one's no, even though my video sucked, I had so many people say, "Oh my gosh, that it's amazing. I love this." That's really the point of it.
Yeah, and that really is it. So if you're doing it to help people, then do it. And another pushback I get from people a lot, because I have the same kind of conversation a lot. I have this conversation with a ton of people at RecFest who were just like, "Oh, I wish I could. I wish I could." And you can't. The thing I tell them is, yeah, there are going to be shitty people. Like there's going to be people who say things to you that hurt your feelings. If you can't handle it, like if you can't take that, then like don't get into this space. Like it's going to happen. You know, and I understand that for some people, like just like they don't have the thick skin needed for it. There is a level of thick skin you have to have. But for every terrible thing somebody says to me, there are plenty more people who say great things. And I favorite every one of them. I have a huge folder at this point of every good comment that's like ever been left in my videos about finding jobs or whatever else. And that way outweighs the people who tell me the things that they tell me. So again, that's a small portion, but it is going to happen. So you also have to know like if you're okay with that happening.
That's a great call out because yeah, it does happen. I think we anyone who puts themselves out there has had it happen. But what I like to tell people is like we're recruiters. It's not like everyone's loving us anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I always make the joke, like I like take like a Venn diagram and I just say like recruiter and like internet influencer. And I lay right here in the middle of just like the least likable person possible. So just like, it's fine. Just come live in that space with me.
Exactly. Perfect. How can listeners connect with you?
They can find me on TikTok or Instagram at Realistic Recruiting. And they can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. They can follow me there. I've been posting a lot more video to LinkedIn recently because it's getting more popular there. But you know, LinkedIn tends to be a little bit more my real job, and then TikTok and Instagram tend to be a little bit more me combining the two. But they can follow me in any of those spots.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And if you want to learn even more about attracting candidates with your content, make sure to check out episode 14, where I chat with Taylor Desson about building online talent communities. Trust me, it's the perfect companion to today's episode. Thanks for listening, and I'll chat with you next week.